I'll give you my entire quarterly bonus if you can decode this mess, Marcus Sterling bellowed, storming into the Sterling Dynamics boardroom like a man possessed. The crumpled envelope in his hand looked like it had been through a war zone. The 12 executives seated around the mahogany table exchanged nervous glances. Does anyone here understand this gibberish? He scattered the papers across the table like confetti at a funeral. Korean? What kind of client sends contracts in Korean without warning? Marcus ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair, destroying hours of careful grooming. Amanda, his chief of staff, cleared her throat delicately. Sir, I've contacted 6 translation services. The earliest appointment we can get is next Tuesday. Tuesday? Marcus spun on his heels. We need this translated today. The acquisition depends on it. He turned back to the room, his voice dripping with sarcasm. All right, brilliant minds, I'll give my entire quarterly bonus, $200,000, to whoever can translate these documents right now. Any takers? Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Everyone knew Korean was one of the most difficult languages for English speakers to learn. Then, from the back corner where the coffee station sat, a quiet voice spoke up. I can translate it. The room fell silent as if someone had sucked all the oxygen out. Every head turned toward the voice. Elena Vasquez stood near the supply cart, wearing a simple gray custodial uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She held a stack of fresh coffee filters in one hand and met Marcus's shocked stare with calm confidence. Excuse me? Marcus blinked hard, certain he'd misheard. I said I can translate your Korean documents, Elena repeated, setting down the coffee filters and walking toward the table. They appear to be acquisition agreements with specific clauses about intellectual property transfer. More laughter erupted around the room. The janitor thinks she knows Korean, someone whispered. But Marcus noticed Elena hadn't flinched at the laughter. She stood straight, professional, waiting. You expect me to believe that our night custodian speaks Korean? Marcus crossed his arms. I expect you to handy the documents so I can prove it, Elena replied evenly. Something in her tone made Marcus pause. There was an authority there that didn't match her uniform. After a moment's hesitation, he gathered the papers and placed them in her outstretched hand. Elena scanned the documents for 30 seconds, her eyes moving with practiced efficiency. Then she looked up. This is an acquisition agreement for Kimchi Tech Solutions. However, there's a critical clause in Section 7 that your legal team needs to know about. The intellectual property rights don't transfer automatically with the purchase. There's a separate subsidiary company listed here as Technology Holdings KL that actually owns the patents you're trying to acquire. Marcus felt his blood pressure spike. What? Without acquiring Technology Holdings KL, you'd be buying a company with no actual intellectual property. Essentially, you'd own an empty shell. Elena set the papers down. The deadline to execute both acquisitions simultaneously is today at 6 p.m. Korean time. That's 4 a.m. our time tomorrow. Amanda was already typing frantically on her laptop. Sir, it's 11 p.m. now. That gives us 5 hours. Marcus grabbed his phone and dialed his legal team. Get me Harrison now. While he waited, he stared at Elena. How did you know all that? Korean business contracts follow specific legal structures. This subsidiary arrangement is common in intellectual property transfers to minimize tax liability. Marcus's lawyer picked up. Harrison, I need you to verify something immediately. He read out the company names, the clause numbers, everything Elena had told him. 5 minutes later, Marcus hung up, his face pale. She's right. Every detail. The boardroom was dead silent. What now? Amanda asked, softly. Marcus looked at Elena with new eyes. Now we have 4.5 hours to structure a dual acquisition. He paused. Elena, I'm going to need you to translate every document in this deal. Can you handle that? Give me a computer and a quiet room. I'll have everything translated and annotated within 3 hours. Amanda, take her to my private office. Give her whatever she needs. As Elena gathered the documents, Marcus called after her. Elena. She turned back. The $200,000, you'll get it. Elena met his gaze steadily. I remember everything people promise when they think I'm invisible. The next morning, Marcus couldn't concentrate on anything. A custodian had just saved him from the biggest business mistake of his career. More than that, she'd done it with the expertise of a seasoned international lawyer. At 9 a.m. sharp, he took the elevator down to the building's lower level, something he had never done in his 8 years as CEO. The maintenance department was a maze of storage rooms and utility closets he'd never known existed. He found Elena reorganizing supplies in a room that smelled of industrial cleaner and floor wax. Elena, he called, knocking on the doorframe. She looked up, unsurprised to see him. Mr. Sterling, do you need something? Translated. I need to understand. Marcus stepped into the small room. You saved my company $50 million last night. Custodians don't usually have that kind of expertise. Elena continued stacking boxes of paper towels. Is there a question in there somewhere? Yes. Who are you really? She paused in her work. I'm exactly who you see. Someone who cleans your offices and occasionally helps with language problems. Elena, I looked up the Korean clauses you mentioned. Only someone with advanced legal training in international business law would know those structures. Maybe I'm just well-read. Marcus tried a different approach. I want to offer you a position in our international division. I already have a job. A real position with benefits, career advancement, and office on the executive floor. Elena finally stopped working and faced him. Mr. Sterling, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested. Why not? You're clearly overqualified for custodial work. Maybe custodial work is exactly what I need. Before Marcus could respond, Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her face tightened with concern. I have to go, she said, grabbing her jacket. Elena, wait! But she was already heading for the door. Family emergency. I'll make up the hours tomorrow. Marcus watched her rush away, more puzzled than ever. That afternoon, he did something he'd never done before. He asked Amanda to quietly research an employee. Elena Vasquez, he said. Find out everything you can. Amanda raised an eyebrow, but didn't question him. By Thursday, she had a folder waiting on his desk. Marcus opened it, expecting to find the usual employment background. Instead, he found something that made him sit down hard in his chair. Northwestern University, Masters in International Relations, he read aloud, specialized in East Asian economic policy, thesis on intellectual property law in emerging markets. He flipped the page. Worked at the State Department's Office of Economic Affairs. Security clearance level secret. Specialized in trade negotiations with Asian markets. Marcus leaned back in his chair. State Department. No wonder she knew those Korean contract structures. Amanda? He called through his intercom. I need Elena Vasquez in my office. Now. Sir, she called in sick today. Family issue. That evening, Marcus found himself doing something completely out of character. He drove to Elena's address, a small apartment building in a working-class neighborhood 20 minutes from downtown. He knocked on apartment 3B. No answer. He was about to leave when he heard voices in the hallway. Elena appeared at the top of the stairs supporting an elderly woman who moved slowly with a walker. Mama, careful on the steps, Elena was saying in Spanish. When she saw Marcus, she froze. Mr. Sterling? What are you doing here? The elderly woman, Elena's mother, clearly, looked between them with sharp, curious eyes. Elena, who is this handsome man? She asked in accented English. Elena, this is my boss. Mr. Sterling, this is my mother, Carmen. Pleased to meet you, Mrs. Vasquez, Marcus said, offering his hand. Carmen shook it with surprising strength. You are the one who works my daughter too hard, yes? Mama, Elena's cheeks flushed. Actually, Marcus said, your daughter works much harder than she needs to. She's overqualified for her position. Carmen studied Marcus with eyes that missed nothing. Come inside, we talk. Elena looked mortified, but Carmen was already unlocking the apartment door. The apartment was small but immaculate. Family photos covered every surface, and the smell of home cooking filled the air. Carmen settled into her chair while Elena reluctantly served coffee. You want to know about my Elena, she said. It wasn't a question. Mama, please. Quiet, mija. This man, he has questions. I have answers. Carmen fixed Marcus with a stare. Elena was very important person in Washington. Very smart, very successful. What happened? Marcus asked gently. Elena and Carmen exchanged a long look. I got sick, Carmen said finally. Diabetes, then kidney problems. Elena, she quit her big job to take care of me. Move back here so I don't have to go to nursing home. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. You left the State Department to take care of your mother? Elena finally spoke. The diplomatic life does not allow for family emergencies. I had to choose. But why custodial work? You could have found something better. Could I? Elena's voice carried an edge. Try explaining a 2-year gap in your resume. Try finding professional work when you can only work nights because your mother needs care during the day. Custodial work pays decent money, offers health insurance, and doesn't ask questions about career breaks. Marcus sat quietly processing this. Your mother, how is she now? Better, Carmen answered. The new treatments, they help, but expensive, very expensive. Elena shot her mother a warning look, but Carmen continued. Elena, she works so hard. 2 jobs. Here at night, translating for immigration lawyers during the day. She never complains, never asks for help. 2 jobs? Marcus looked at Elena. I do freelance translation work for legal aid societies, immigrants who need help with documents, court proceedings. What languages? Spanish, Korean, Mandarin, Japanese? She paused. And Portuguese. 5 languages. Marcus shook his head in amazement. Elena, he said, I want to make you an offer you can't refuse. International business consultant, Marcus said, sliding a contract across his desk. Salary, $150,000 annually. Full health benefits for you and your mother. Flexible hours. You can work from home when needed. Elena read through the contract carefully. This is very generous, but I have conditions. Name them. First, no favoritism comments from employees. employees. I want to be treated as a professional, not as the custodian who got lucky. Agreed. Second, I need to maintain my freelance translation work. Those immigrant clients depend on me. As long as it doesn't interfere with sterling business, no problem. Third, Elena hesitated. If my mother has another health crisis, I may need time off with little notice. Elena, family comes first, always. She studied his face, looking for signs of insincerity. Finding none, she signed the contract. When do I start? Tomorrow. We have a major deal with a Chinese manufacturing consortium. I need someone who understands both the language and the business culture. Elena's first week as an international consultant was everything Marcus had hoped for. She not only translated contracts, but provided crucial cultural context that saved sterling dynamics from several potential deal breakers. In Chinese business culture, she explained to the negotiation team, the phrase they're using doesn't mean no. It means we need to save face while saying yes. They want the contract modified slightly so it appears they negotiated better terms. The modifications were minor, but they allowed the Chinese consortium to agree to the deal. What could have been weeks of deadlocked negotiations was resolved in 2 days. Marcus watched Elena work with growing admiration. She was brilliant, professional, and completely unpretentious. She treated the mailroom staff with the same respect as the board members. But he also noticed the walls she maintained. She was friendly, but never personal. Professional, but never warm. It was as if she was determined to keep everyone at arm's length. 2 weeks into her new position, Marcus finally understood why. He was working late when he heard shouting from the conference room. He walked over to find Elena facing off with 3 other employees: Brad from marketing, Jennifer from legal, and Tom from finance. "I don't care what degree she claims to have," Brad was saying loudly. "We all know she got this job because Sterling has the hots for her." "Sleeping her way up from the janitor's closet," Jennifer added with a nasty laugh. Elena stood perfectly still, her face composed. "Are you finished?" "Look, Elena," Tom said in a condescending tone, "nothing personal, but it's pretty obvious what's going on here. You were cleaning toilets last month, now you're making 6 figures. Come on." "You're right," Elena said calmly. "It is obvious. It's obvious that I speak 5 languages fluently. It's obvious that I have a master's degree from Northwestern. It's obvious that I worked for the State Department for 6 years. And it's obvious that none of you bothered to learn any of these facts before running your mouths." She walked toward the door, then turned back. "But what's most obvious is that you're all threatened by someone who doesn't look like your typical executive. That says more about you than it does about me." Elena walked out, leaving the 3 employees looking stunned. Marcus stepped out of the shadows. "She's right, you know." The 3 spun around, realizing they'd been overheard. "Marcus, we didn't know you were—" Brad started. "Listening to you attack one of our most valuable employees? Yeah, I heard everything." He walked closer, his voice deadly quiet. "Elena Vasquez has more international business experience than the 3 of you combined. She saved this company millions of dollars in her first 2 weeks, and you're questioning her qualifications?" "We just thought," Jennifer began. "No, you didn't think. That's the problem." Marcus's voice was ice. "And Elena earned her position through competence and expertise. If you have a problem with that, I'm happy to help you find employment elsewhere." The 3 employees exchanged uncomfortable looks and mumbled apologies before hurrying away. Marcus found Elena in her office, packing up her things. "Going somewhere?" "Home. I think I've caused enough disruption for one day." "Elena, don't let them get to you. They're idiots." "They're not wrong about the optics, Marcus. A custodian suddenly becomes a consultant? It looks suspicious." "Who cares how it looks? You earned this position." Elena stopped packing and looked at him. "Did I? Or did you create it because you felt guilty about how I was underemployed?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Does it matter? You're brilliant at what you do." "It matters to me." Elena sat down heavily in her chair. "I've spent my whole career having my qualifications questioned because I'm a Latina woman. I thought I'd left that behind." "You did leave it behind. Those 3 are just small-minded idiots who feel threatened. Or maybe they see something I don't want to admit." "Which is?" Elena looked at him directly. "That I'm starting to care what you think of me, as more than just an employee." The words hung in the air between them. "Elena," Marcus started. "Don't, please. This is exactly why I shouldn't have taken this job. Lines get blurred, people make assumptions." "What if the assumptions are right?" Marcus asked quietly. Elena stared at him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that, yes, I created this position for you, but not because I felt guilty, but because I'm falling in love with you." Elena took a step back. "Marcus, we can't. This is exactly what they were talking about." "I don't care what they think. I do. I care because my entire professional reputation depends on being taken seriously. And if people think I'm sleeping with the boss, then they're idiots who don't know what they're talking about." "Are they?" Elena challenged. "Because right now it sounds like you're confirming their worst assumptions." Marcus realized his mistake immediately. That's not what I meant, isn't it? You created a position for me, gave me a huge salary, and now you're telling me you have feelings for me? How is that supposed to look? Elena gathered her things. I need to think about whether I can continue working here. Elena, please don't make a decision when you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm being realistic. She headed for the door. Good night, Marcus. For the next 3 days, Elena called in sick. Marcus tried calling her, but she didn't answer. He considered going to her apartment, but realized that would only prove her point about professional boundaries. On Thursday, Amanda knocked on his door. Sir, you have a problem. What now? The Kim Industries deal, the one Elena translated, their representative is flying in tomorrow for final negotiations, and they're bringing additional contracts in Korean. We need Elena. Marcus rubbed his temples. Have you been able to reach her? No, sir. But I did some checking. She's been taking freelance work with Patterson Legal downtown. Immigration cases. That afternoon, Marcus found himself in the waiting room of Patterson Legal, a small firm that specialized in immigration law. The office was crowded with families speaking a dozen different languages. He spotted Elena through a glass partition, sitting across from an elderly Korean man and woman. She was explaining something in careful Korean, and the couple looked relieved. When she finished with her clients, she noticed Marcus waiting. "What are you doing here?" she asked, clearly not pleased to see him. "I need to talk to you. If this is about work, we can discuss it over the phone. The Kim Industries deal falls through tomorrow if you're not there to translate the final contracts." Elena's expression tightened. "Find another translator." "There isn't time. You know how specific Korean business language is. One mistranslation could kill the deal." Elena looked back at the waiting room full of immigrant families. "I have other obligations." "I know. And I respect that. But this deal means 300 new jobs in our manufacturing division, people who need work." Elena was quiet for a long moment. "Fine. I'll translate your contracts, but only as a freelance consultant, not as your employee." "Elena, that's not necessary." "It's very necessary. I'll do the translation work, but I won't be coming back to Sterling Dynamics full time." Marcus felt his heart sink. "Can we at least talk about what happened the other night?" "There's nothing to talk about. You made an offer. I'm declining it. End of discussion." The next morning, Elena arrived at Sterling Dynamics as a freelance consultant. She was professional, efficient, and completely distant. The Kim Industries negotiations went perfectly, with Elena providing not just translation but crucial cultural guidance. "The phrase they just used," she whispered to Marcus during a break, "roughly translates to, 'We want to be friends for a long time.' In Korean business culture, that means they're ready to agree to a long-term partnership beyond this single contract." "Should I ask about future deals?" "Not directly. Ask about their vision for mutual prosperity. They'll understand you're interested in a broader relationship." Marcus followed her advice, and by the end of the day, Sterling Dynamics had not only closed the manufacturing deal, but established a framework for future partnerships worth potentially hundreds of millions of dollars. As the Korean delegation left, Marcus turned to Elena. "That was incredible. You didn't just translate, you helped me understand their entire mindset." "It's what you paid me for." "Elena, please, can we talk privately?" She checked her watch. "I have an immigration hearing at 4 p.m. A family that might be deported if their asylum petition isn't properly documented." "After that, then, dinner?" "Marcus, I already told you, as colleagues, to discuss your consulting rate for future projects." Elena studied his face suspiciously. "Just business." That evening, they met at a quiet restaurant downtown. Marcus had chosen carefully, professional but comfortable, somewhere they could talk without interruption. The Kim deal was worth $75 million to Sterling Dynamics, Marcus said over appetizers. "Your consulting fee should reflect the value you provided." "I charge $200 an hour for translation work. Yesterday was 8 hours. That's $1,600 for work that generated $75 million in revenue. Elena, that's not even reasonable." "It's my standard rate." "Then your standard rate is too low." Marcus slid an envelope across the table. This is what I think yesterday's work was worth. Elena opened the envelope and nearly choked on her wine. The check was for $50,000. Marcus, this is ridiculous. I can't accept this. Why not? You earned it. Because it looks like payment for something other than translation work. Marcus leaned forward. Elena, when are you going to stop letting other people's small minds dictate your life? When I stop having to worry about my professional reputation. Your reputation is solid. You're the best international consultant I've ever worked with. I'm also the woman you said you were falling in love with. Marcus was quiet for a moment. That's still true. Which is why I can't keep working with you. Even if I promise to keep things strictly professional? Can you? Honestly? Marcus considered the question. I can try. That's not good enough. For either of us. Elena stood to leave, then paused. Marcus, in another life, in another situation, maybe things could be different. But not in this one. She left the restaurant, leaving Marcus alone with the untouched check and the growing realization that he was losing the best thing that had ever happened to him. 3 weeks after Elena left Sterling Dynamics, Marcus was struggling to focus on anything. He'd hired 2 different translation services for international deals, and both had made costly mistakes that Elena would have caught immediately. The German contract you signed last week, Amanda said, placing a folder on his desk with obvious concern. There's a problem. What kind of problem? The translation service missed a liability clause. We're potentially on the hook for environmental cleanup costs if the German facility has contamination issues. Marcus felt his blood pressure spike. How much are we talking about? Potentially millions. The German lawyers are claiming we agreed to assume all historical environmental liabilities. Get me Elena Vasquez on the phone. Sir, she's not our employee anymore. I don't care. Find her. An hour later, Marcus was in Elena's small office at Patterson Legal, surrounded by stacks of immigration files and legal documents in multiple languages. I need your help, he said without preamble. Hello to you too, Marcus. Sorry. Hello. I need your help. The German deal has problems. Elena set down her pen. What kind of problems? Marcus explained the liability issue. Elena listened without interruption, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Do you have the original German contracts here? In my car. Bring them up. 20 minutes later, Elena was reviewing the German documents with the focused intensity Marcus remembered so well. Your translation service made a basic error, she said finally. This phrase, historische Umweltverbindlichkeiten, they translated as historical environmental liabilities. But in German corporate law, this specifically refers to pre-1990 contamination issues. Post-1990 issues fall under different regulations. What does that mean for us? It means you're only liable for contamination that occurred before German reunification. Given that the facility was built in 1995, you're probably in the clear. Marcus felt relief wash over him. Can you draft a response to their lawyers? I can draft it, but you should have a German law firm review it before sending. Will you handle that too? Elena hesitated. Marcus, this is not what I do anymore. Just this once. Please. I'll pay whatever you ask. Elena looked around her small office and then at the stack of immigration cases waiting for her attention. I'll do it, but I have conditions. Name them. This is purely consulting work. I handle this one issue, then we go back to no contact. Agreed. And I want half the fee donated to Patterson Legal's Immigration Assistance Fund. Marcus nodded. Whatever you want. Elena worked through the weekend, coordinating with German lawyers, reviewing environmental regulations, and crafting a legal response that saved Sterling Dynamics from a potentially disastrous liability. The German company dropped their claims within 48 hours. On Monday morning, Marcus brought Elena her consulting check. $100,000, she said, looking at the amount, for a weekend's work. You saved the company millions. Again. Elena endorsed the check and handed half of it back to him for the immigration fund, as agreed. Elena, I have a proposition. She gave him a wary look. What kind of proposition? Come back to Sterling Dynamics, not as an employee, as an independent contractor. You set your own hours, choose your own projects, work from wherever you want. Marcus, hear me out. You could maintain your immigration work, but also handle our international consulting. Best of both worlds. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Why is this so important to you? Marcus sat down across from her small desk. Because I've realized something in the last few weeks. I don't just miss working with you professionally. I miss you, period. Marcus, we've been through this. I know, and I know you have valid concerns about professional boundaries. But what if we could find a way to make it work? How? I don't know yet, but I'm willing to figure it out if you are. Elena looked at the check in her hand, then at the stack of immigration files waiting for her attention. Oh, think about it. That evening, Elena was at home helping her mother with her evening medications, when Carmen asked, "How was work today, mija?" "Complicated, Mama." "The handsome boss man again?" Elena smiled beside herself. "How did you know?" "Because you get that look on your face, like you want something but you're afraid to take it." "It's not that simple, Mama. He's my former boss. There are professional complications." Carmen set down her pill organizer and gave Elena her full attention. "Mija, when I was young, I met your father. He was the son of the ranch owner. I was just a worker's daughter. People said it would never work. What happened? I almost let their words stop me from following my heart. But your father, he didn't care what people said. He saw me for who I was, not who they thought I should be." Elena had heard the story before, but tonight it felt different. "You think I should take the risk?" "I think you should stop letting other people's small minds make your decisions for you." The next morning, Elena called Marcus. "I'll take the consulting contract," she said. "But we need to establish very clear boundaries. Whatever you need. Professional only during business hours. No personal discussions, no romantic overtures, no blurred lines." "Understood. And if it becomes too complicated, I walk away. No arguments, no attempts to change my mind." "Agreed. One more thing. I want to bring something to your attention that might change your mind about wanting to work with me." Marcus felt a chill. "What do you mean?" "Can you meet me for coffee this afternoon? There's something about my past I think you should know." They met at a small cafe near Elena's apartment. She looked nervous, which was unusual for her. "What you need to know," Elena began, stirring her coffee obsessively, "is why I really left the State Department." "I thought you left to take care of your mother." "That was part of it, but not the whole story." Elena took a deep breath. "In 2019, I was working on trade negotiations with several Asian countries. I discovered that someone in our department was leaking sensitive negotiation strategies to competing American companies. Industrial espionage? Corporate espionage involving government negotiations. Companies were paying for insider information that let them undercut their competitors in international bids. What did you do?" "I reported it through proper channels. Internal investigation, ethics committee, the works." "And?" Elena's laugh was bitter. "And I learned that proper channels don't always lead to proper outcomes. The investigation was buried, the leakers were quietly transferred to other departments, and I was suddenly persona non grata. They punished you for reporting corruption? They didn't fire me outright. That would have been too obvious. Instead, I was assigned to increasingly meaningless projects, excluded from important meetings, passed over for promotions. The message was clear: keep your mouth shut, or your career is over. Marcus was beginning to understand. So you left. I tried to stick it out, but then Mama got sick, and I realized I was fighting a losing battle anyway. So I came home, became a full-time caregiver, and took whatever work I could find. Elena, why are you telling me this now? Because if we're going to work together, you need to know that I have a reputation in certain circles. I'm seen as a troublemaker, someone who doesn't play by the rules. The rules that allow corruption to flourish? The rules that allow powerful people to do whatever they want without consequences. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Are you worried I'll change my mind about the consulting contract? I'm worried that my past might cause problems for Sterling Dynamics if the wrong people find out you're working with me. Let me worry about that. Elena, I'm serious. There are people in government and corporate circles who would love to cause trouble for anyone associated with me. Elena, look at me. Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. I don't care about any of that. I care about your integrity, your competence, and your character. Everything you just told me only reinforces my respect for you. Elena looked down at their joined hands. We set professional boundaries. Right now, I'm speaking as someone who admires your courage, not as your client. She didn't pull her hand away. This is exactly what I was worried about. What if we stopped worrying and started trusting? Trusting what? Each other, our judgment, our ability to handle whatever comes. Elena was quiet for a long moment. The immigration families I work with, they've taught me something about courage. They risk everything for a chance at something better. Maybe it's time I took some of my own advice. Does that mean what I think it means? Alina looked directly at him. It means I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions. Professional boundaries are important, but so is following your heart. And what is your heart telling you? And I'm falling in love with you too. And that scares me more than any professional complications. Marcus smiled. Good. If it wasn't scary, it wouldn't be worth it. 3 months later, Alina was dividing her time between Sterling Dynamics and Patterson Legal, handling international consulting for Marcus while continuing her immigration work. The arrangement was working better than either of them had hoped. More importantly, they were figuring out how to balance their professional relationship with their growing personal connection. They kept strict boundaries during business hours, but evenings and weekends belonged to them. How's your mother feeling about all this? Marcus asked one evening as they walked through Elena's neighborhood. She likes you, says you remind her of my father, stubborn but honorable. I'll take that as a compliment. It was meant as one. They were approaching Elena's apartment building when she suddenly stopped walking. What's wrong? Marcus asked. Elena pointed to a black sedan parked across the street. That car's been there for 3 days. Maybe someone new moved in. No one just sits in their car for hours, Marcus. And look, the windows are tinted, but you can see there's someone inside. As if on cue, the car's engine started and pulled away from the curb, driving slowly past them before turning the corner. Elena, you're being paranoid. Maybe. Or maybe my past is catching up with me. The next morning, Elena's fears were confirmed. Amanda called Marcus at 7 a.m. Sir, you need to see today's business journal. Page 3. Marcus grabbed the paper and flipped to the article Amanda mentioned. The headline made his blood run cold. Sterling Dynamics CEO's new consultant, former State Department troublemaker with corruption allegations. The article detailed Elena's history with the State Department, but from a completely different angle. It portrayed her as a disgruntled employee who had made false accusations against respected officials, then left government service under a cloud of suspicion. Elena Vasquez was quietly asked to resign from the State Department after making unfounded accusations against senior staff, the article claimed. Sources suggest her allegations were motivated by personal grievances rather than actual evidence of wrongdoing. Marcus's phone was ringing before he finished reading. "Mr. Sterling?" an unfamiliar voice said. "This is Janet Morrison from Channel 7 News. I'd like to ask you about your relationship with Elena Vasquez." Marcus hung up immediately, but the phone rang again within seconds. By 9 a.m., Marcus had received calls from 5 reporters, 3 board members, and 2 major clients expressing concerns about Sterling Dynamics' association with Elena. Marcus drove immediately to Patterson Legal, where he found Elena in her small office, staring at her own copy of the business journal. "How bad is it?" she asked without looking up. "Bad. The phone hasn't stopped ringing." Elena closed the newspaper. "I told you this might happen. Elena, we'll fight this. We'll hire a PR firm, get our side of the story out." "No." Elena stood up and began gathering her files. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. I won't let my past destroy your company." "Where are you going?" "Home. To pack. I think it's time for Mama and me to leave Chicago." Marcus felt panic rise in his chest. "Elena, you can't run away from this." "I'm not running away. I'm protecting you." She faced him with tears in her eyes. "Marcus, I love you too much to let you lose everything because of me." "I don't care about the business." "Yes, you do, and you should. Sterling Dynamics employs 800 people. You can't sacrifice their livelihoods for me." Before Marcus could argue further, Elena's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and her face went pale. "Who is it?" Marcus asked. "My former supervisor at State, David Chen." She answered the call. "Hello, David." Marcus could only hear Elena's side of the conversation, but her expressions told him everything he needed to know. "I see. Yes, I understand. No, I won't be making any public statements. David, you know those accusations weren't unfounded." She hung up, looking defeated. "What did he want?" Marcus asked. "To warn me that more articles are coming. Apparently, someone has been very busy spreading information about my time at State." "Who would do that?" Elena sat down heavily. "People who want to make sure I can never work in international business again." That afternoon, Marcus called an emergency board meeting. The 5 board members sat around the conference table with grim expressions. "Marcus, we need to discuss the Elena Vasquez situation." "There's nothing to discuss. Elena is the most competent consultant we've ever worked with." "That may be true, but the negative publicity is already affecting our stock price." Marcus had seen the numbers. Sterling Dynamics stock had dropped 3% since the morning article. "2 of our major clients have called expressing concerns," added board member James Morrison. "They're worried about being associated with controversy." "What controversy?" Marcus demanded. "Elena reported corruption and was retaliated against. She's the victim here." "According to her version of events," Roberts said, "but the article suggests otherwise. The article is a hit piece designed to destroy her reputation." "Maybe, but perception matters more than truth in business, Marcus. You know that." Marcus looked around the table at people he'd worked with for years. "Are you asking me to fire her?" "We're asking you to consider what's best for the company," Patricia said gently. Elena is what's best for the company. She's saved us millions of dollars. And now she's costing us millions in lost confidence, James replied. The room fell silent. I need to think about this, Marcus said finally. Don't think too long, Robert warned. The longer this drags out, the worse it gets for everyone. That evening, Marcus went to Elena's apartment. He found her and Carmen packing boxes. You're really leaving? He asked. Carmen looked up from folding clothes. Elena thinks it's best. What do you think, Mrs. Vasquez? Carmen gave him a long look. I think my daughter is running away from the first good thing that's happened to her in years. Mama, Elena protested. No, mija, I'm old, but I'm not stupid. This man loves you. You love him, but you're so afraid of being hurt that you're hurting yourself. It's not that simple. It is that simple, Carmen interrupted. In life, you fight for what matters or you spend your whole life wondering what if. Elena sat down on the couch, exhausted. Mama, you don't understand. If I stay, Marcus could lose everything. And if you leave, you definitely lose everything. Marcus sat down next to Elena. She's right, you know. Marcus, be realistic. Your board wants me gone. Your clients are nervous. The media is painting me as some kind of corporate spy. Then we change the narrative. How? Marcus was quiet for a moment, then pulled out his phone. Amanda, I need you to set up a press conference for tomorrow morning. Elena grabbed his arm. Marcus, what are you doing? I'm fighting back! The next morning, Sterling Dynamics headquarters was surrounded by news fans. Marcus had spent the night preparing, with Elena trying to talk him out of what she considered a terrible mistake. You're going to destroy your career for me, she said as they arrived at the office. I'm going to tell the truth. There's a difference. The press conference was held in Sterling Dynamics' main conference room. Marcus stood behind a podium facing dozens of reporters and news cameras. Ladies and gentlemen, I've called this press conference to address recent media reports about Elena Vasquez, Sterling Dynamics' international consultant. The room was completely quiet. Miss Vasquez is a former State Department official who served her country with distinction for 6 years. She left government service to care for her elderly mother, not because of any professional misconduct. Marcus paused, finding Elena in the back of the room. The allegations that she made false accusations are themselves false. Miss Vasquez reported actual corruption and was retaliated against for doing so. This is not unusual. Whistleblowers often face professional consequences for speaking truth to power. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Sterling, how can you be sure her accusations were legitimate? Because I've worked with Elena for months. I've seen her integrity, her professionalism, and her commitment to doing what's right, even when it's difficult. Another reporter jumped in. Are you having a personal relationship with Miss Vasquez? Marcus looked directly into the camera. Yes, I am. Elena Vasquez is one of the most remarkable people I've ever met. She's brilliant, ethical, and courageous. I'm proud to work with her, and I'm proud to love her. Gasps rippled through the room. Elena's eyes filled with tears. But more importantly, Marcus continued, Elena has saved Sterling Dynamics millions of dollars through her expertise. She's handled complex international negotiations that our previous consultants couldn't manage. She's an asset to this company and to any organization lucky enough to work with her. A reporter called out, what about the concerns from your board and clients? My board and clients will see the facts when the current media frenzy dies down. Sterling Dynamics stands by Elena Vasquez completely. Marcus stepped away from the podium. No further questions. As the reporters filed out, Elena made her way to the front of the room. Marcus, what did you just do? I told the truth. You just made yourself a target. Anyone who is after me will come after you now. Marcus took her hands. Good. Let them come. I'm not afraid of a fight, especially when I'm fighting for something that matters. Elena looked into his eyes. You really meant all of that? Every word. Even the part about loving me? In front of all those cameras? Marcus smiled. Especially that part. Elena threw her arms around him. You're completely crazy. Is that a yes to staying in Chicago? That's a yes to everything. 3 weeks after Marcus's press conference, Elena was working late at Patterson Legal when her phone rang. The caller ID showed a Washington, D.C. number she didn't recognize. Elena Vasquez, she answered. Ms. Vasquez, this is Agent Sarah Kim from the FBI's Public Corruption Unit. Elena's blood ran cold. Yes? We need to speak with you about your time at the State Department, specifically your reports about corruption in the Trade Negotiation Division. I'm sorry, but I reported that years ago. Nothing came of it. That's what we'd like to discuss. Are you available to meet tomorrow? Elena looked around the small law office, then at her stack of immigration cases. Agent Kim, I'm not sure I want to reopen that chapter of my life. Ms. Vasquez, we have reason to believe your original reports were accurate. We've opened a formal investigation, and we need your testimony. The next morning, Elena sat in a federal building conference room, across from Agent Kim and 2 other FBI investigators. They had spread documents across the table. Some she recognized, others she'd never seen. Ms. Vasquez, Agent Kim began. In 2019, you reported that classified trade negotiation strategies were being leaked to private corporations. Yes, and I was told the investigation found no evidence of wrongdoing. The internal investigation was compromised. Someone was actively burying your reports. Elena leaned forward. What do you mean compromised? Agent Kim slid a document across the table. We've discovered that your former supervisor, David Chen, was receiving payments from Meridian International, a consulting firm that was selling classified information to their corporate clients. Elena stared at the bank records. David was taking bribes? $50,000 a month for 3 years. In exchange, he provided Meridian with advanced knowledge of U.S. negotiation positions, allowing their clients to prepare counter strategies. And when I reported suspicious activity, Chen made sure your reports never reached the people who could act on them. Elena felt a mixture of vindication and anger. So I was right all along. Completely right. Your reports were accurate, detailed, and would have exposed the entire operation if they'd been properly investigated. Agent Kim opened another folder. We're prepared to go public with these findings, but we need your cooperation. What kind of cooperation? Testimony before a grand jury, possibly congressional hearings. This case involves several high-ranking officials and millions of dollars in illegal payments. Elena thought about Marcus, about Sterling Dynamics, about the media attention that would inevitably follow. Agent Kim, if I testify, this becomes public knowledge. The case will be high profile, yes. And my name will be in the news again? As the whistleblower who exposed a major corruption scandal. Your reputation will be fully restored. That evening, Elena met Marcus at their favorite restaurant. The FBI wants me to testify, she said without preamble. Marcus set down his wine glass. About the State Department corruption? They've proven I was right all along. My former supervisor was taking bribes to bury my reports. Elena, that's incredible news. Is it? Because it means more media attention. More scrutiny, more potential problems for Sterling Dynamics. Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. It means you'll finally be vindicated. Everyone will know you were telling the truth. Are you sure you want to go through that again? The reporters, the questions, the speculation about our relationship? Elena, I'm proud of what you did. I'm proud of your courage, your integrity. If testifying helps other whistleblowers come forward, then we do it. Elena looked at their joined hands. We? You think I'm letting you face this alone? 2 months later, Elena sat at a witness table in a packed congressional hearing room. TV cameras captured every word as she testified about the corruption she'd uncovered and the retaliation she'd faced. Ms. Vasquez, the committee chairman asked, when you first reported these irregularities, what response did you receive? I was told my concerns were unfounded and that I should focus on my assigned duties. And when you persisted? I was gradually excluded from important meetings, passed over for promotions, and eventually made to feel that my career was over if I continued asking questions. What made you decide to leave the State Department? Elena glanced at the audience, where Marcus sat in the front row with Carmen. My mother became seriously ill, and I realized I was fighting a battle I couldn't win. Sometimes you have to choose between your career and your family, between your ideals and your survival. Do you regret reporting the corruption? Elena thought for a moment. No. I regret that it took 5 years for anyone to listen, but I don't regret doing what was right. The hearing made national news. Within 24 hours, Elena's phone was ringing with job offers from major corporations, law firms, and government agencies. Elena Vasquez vindicated, read the headline in the same business journal that had attacked her months earlier. Former State Department whistleblower proves corruption allegations were accurate. Marcus found Elena at her office at Patterson Legal, surrounded by job offers and interview requests. How does it feel to be in demand? Overwhelming. Georgetown Law wants me to teach international trade policy. 3 different law firms have offered me partner tracks. The Commerce Department wants me to head their new corruption prevention unit. Those are incredible opportunities. Elena looked up at him. They are, but there's only one opportunity I'm really interested in. Which one? Elena stood up and walked around her desk. Sterling Dynamics is expanding its international division, right? Right. You'll need someone to head that division, someone with government experience, language skills, and a proven track record. Marcus smiled. I might know someone who fits that description. Marcus Sterling. I'd like to formally apply for the position of Vice President of International Operations. Elena Vasquez, you're overqualified for that position. Then make it Senior Vice President. Deal. Marcus pulled her into his arms. But I should warn you, the CEO has a policy against dating employees. Good thing the Senior Vice President has a policy against dating her subordinates. I'm your subordinate now? In the international division, I outrank you. Marcus laughed. I can live with that. 6 months later, Elena stood on the rooftop of Sterling Dynamics, wearing an elegant white dress and looking out over the Chicago skyline. The building's top floor had been transformed into a garden wedding venue. You look beautiful, mija, Carmen said, adjusting Elena's veil. Thank you, Mama, for everything. For what? For teaching me to fight for what matters. For showing me that love is worth the risk. Carmen smiled. Your father would be proud. You found a good man who sees your worth. The ceremony was small, just family, close friends, and a few colleagues. Marcus waited at the altar, beaming as Elena walked down the aisle. Dearly beloved, the officiant began, we are here to celebrate the union of 2 people who have found in each other not just love, but partnership, respect, and shared purpose. Elena looked at Marcus, thinking about their journey from that first day when she'd translated Korean contracts as a custodian. Marcus, she said when it was time for vows, you saw me when I was invisible. You valued my mind when others questioned my credentials. You stood by me when it would have been easier to walk away. Her voice caught slightly. You taught me that true partnership isn't about one person rescuing another. It's about 2 people choosing to build something together that's stronger than what either could create alone. Marcus wiped away a tear as he responded. Elena, you changed everything about how I see the world. You showed me that real strength comes from integrity, that true leadership means lifting others up, and that love isn't about finding someone who fits into your life. It's about building a new life together. They exchanged rings as the sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. "You may kiss your wife," the officiant announced. As Marcus kissed Elena, the small crowd erupted in applause. In the audience, several of Elena's immigration clients cheered in multiple languages, while Sterling Dynamics employees whooped and hollered. Later, during the reception, Marcus pulled Elena aside for their first dance as husband and wife. "Any regrets?" he asked as they swayed to the music. "Only one," Elena said. "What's that?" "I should have slapped you sooner. It would have saved us both a lot of time." Marcus laughed. "Note to self, marry someone who keeps me in line." "Too late to change your mind now, Mr. Sterling." "Wouldn't dream of it, Mrs. Sterling." As they danced under the stars, Elena thought about the long journey that had brought them here. From custodian to consultant, to senior executive to wife. Each step had required courage, but each step had been worth it. Sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin in the most ordinary places. Sometimes the person who changes your life is hiding in plain sight, mopping floors and translating impossible documents. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you're brave enough to see past uniforms and assumptions, to find the person who will challenge you, support you, and love you exactly as you are. Elena and Marcus Sterling built more than just a successful international business together. They built a life based on mutual respect, shared values, and the understanding that true partnership means celebrating each other's strengths while supporting each other through weaknesses. Their love story became legendary at Sterling Dynamics, not because it was a fairy tale, but because it was real. Two intelligent, complicated people who chose each other every day, who built something beautiful from honesty, courage, and the radical act of truly seeing another person. And in the end, that's what the best love stories really are. Two people who refuse to let fear, prejudice, or other people's small minds keep them from the extraordinary life they can build together.